Are you ready for phenomenal thought leadership from the most well-respected leaders in industry? Join us for stellar conversations and sound advice from trailblazers who have a passion for excellence. Learn best practices that will catapult the culture of your company into a new level of greatness. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Your host is Christine Gannon.
We are so honored today to have Cory with us. I can't even tell you how thrilled I am that he has joined our podcast today. Cory is an experienced CEO who's passionate about helping leaders make a greater impact and solve problems through high-performing coaching, training, and consulting. He has over 25 years of CEO and executive leadership experience in building ministries and managing nonprofits, including Phoenix Rescue Mission and the Atlanta Mission. He served on the board of many nonprofits, national and regional association. He was also appointed by 2 Arizona governors to serve on state commissions and councils. He's known as a visionary leader and for his innovation in designing effective solution-based programs for community issues. He's a graduate from Furman University, but he has an MBA from Clemson. He's also an ordained minister, and he lives in Phoenix with his beautiful wife, Chrissy, who's a teacher and also an author. So Jay, welcome. So glad you could join us today.
Thanks, Christine. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm excited about this.
So you held a webinar earlier in the year called What Makes a Great Leader. Talk to us a little bit about what your thoughts are on what makes a great leader. What are 2 or 3 things that are critical?
Well, I would maybe back up a step and just say that leadership development is absolutely crucial, in my opinion. That's in this day and time. I mean, all you got to do is turn on the TV and see we got a definite leadership deficit. And so I was just really moved and passionate about how I could be part of the solution to that and to use my experience and strengths. And I'm a student of leadership. And so that so we could really help develop, improve the leaders of today, but also help to develop the leaders of tomorrow. I think what makes a good leader. Definitely, integrity is the word that stands out as number 1 for me. I think that authentic, someone who you can trust. They mean what they say what they mean, they shoot straight. I think that people can spot the artificial real quick.
Yeah.
And so they project the artificial when they're dealing with somebody that's artificial. So nothing really actually gets done about authenticity. So integrity, trust is absolutely huge. I've taken some teams through some books regarding the development of trust in cultures. And I just, it's an equity. It can't be replaced. If you have trust, you can go a long way. If you don't, you're not going to get very far.
That is so true. I mean, that really is the grounding element to every relationship, including just leading teams. So I want to talk to you about trust in the context of natural leaders. So are they born or developed? Because I have an opinion about it. But when you talk about trust and integrity, can you really teach someone to be integral and trustworthy, or is it inherent in good leaders?
I think we're fooled by that. I think that, I think there's a lot of people believe that leaders are born. And again, I would agree that there are some personality types that kind of appear to move to the top. So they might get natural leadership assignments and stuff like that. It doesn't mean they're good leaders.
Right.
I think we've seen recently people that actually can accomplish and achieve a whole lot, but have absolutely, I would say, are very poor leaders in terms of mobilizing. Leadership is influence. I am a John Maxwell advocate. I'm a I am certified with John Maxwell. I think he's one of the best, if not the
He
best. And
is. He's
yeah,
phenomenal.
leadership is influence, nothing
Right.
more, nothing less. And so, I think that leadership is developed. It requires commitment, nature and nurture. Again, I think that there are some platforms that or personality types that might, in a worldly definition of leadership, a charismatic personality or something like that might appear to be a good leader, but that's not what makes a good leader. So I think that it's a field of study. It is a discipline. Character development can be achieved. It is also requires hard work and discipline. So leaders are developed, and we've seen in this past year. I mean, the emergence, some fall, the fall of some leadership, and the emergence of new leadership. Because adversity actually really shows people what they're really made of. So,
That is so true. That is so true. I'm thinking about a couple things you said in terms of, not everyone is cut out for leadership, because if you're not ready to do the work and invest the time and the effort to develop yourself as a great leader, you really should step away from that kind of role. I'm thinking, back in my career, the process used to be, it may still be, but I don't know how strongly, but the process used to be, if you did a really great job at your job, you were promoted, and
mhm,
you're promoted to a leadership role. It doesn't mean you're a great leader. It just means that maybe you had integrity and maybe you had follow through, but it doesn't mean you could lead a team of people. And
right.
so I just remember being in so many situations thinking, this person does not want to be managing people. They were great at their other job. It doesn't
Mhm,
mean you can be a great leader just because you do good work.
mhm. Yeah, I think that in the corporate world, I think many people make a mistake for promoting your top salesman to sales manager
Right.
when that might not be their thing. It's a whole different thing. Requires a whole different set of skills, and I've seen a lot of damage being done by that. So
Absolutely.
I think that uh, your natural giftedness in one particular area that may make you stand out in that particular area, whether it's knowledge or whatever. So that happens in church all the time. A person that might be the most dynamic, be the most charismatic, but are they really spiritually mature enough to be an elder, for example?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
So true. We promote without maybe considering the position.
exactly.
So I'm gonna change topics a little bit, but stay obviously on the topic of leadership. But let's talk a little bit about culture. It seems like a leader has an inherent responsibility to drive the culture. And, we can just look across locally and nationally organizations that have great leadership and great cultures. But talk to me a little bit about your perspective in terms of what's a leader's responsibility in driving and shaping a culture?
Leaders got to own it. I mean, that is, if not the top, certainly one of the top focal points of a leader. Leader has to own developing. There has to be purposeful, focused action. To me, it's part there. It should be a strategy of every strategic plan with action steps and goals. A culture there. I mean, we live in 2021. There's assessment tools that can assess corporate culture, church cultures, anytime there's a group. So you can assess the culture of your organization. You want to look at all kind of different variables, but uh, the leader has to own that. The leader has to drive that. The leader has to be the most sensitive person. So you got to keep your focus on the vision and on the future, but you got to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in your organization, because a toxic or a poor culture can destroy an organization, no matter how good it looks on the outside.
And those assessments, for the most part, facts don't lie, right?
Yeah,
So an
right.
assessment is a great tool, which you offer, to really show so many things, not only about an individual, but a company. And I think I love assessments. I have used
Yeah.
most of my adult life because they really show you where things are at. You may like it, you may not like it, but it's fact based. It's really not an opinion.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to challenge anybody on it's okay. So you go to the doctor's office, the first thing you're going to do is do an assessment. You
Right.
go to, when you're in the first grade, you're doing an assessment in reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? I mean, you're everywhere. You have to find out where you are. But when it comes to this, I don't really know. I mean, all this time, doing this assessment stuff, is it really going to do any good? Well, I'm telling you, if you're not aware of what your strengths are, and you're not aware of the strengths and weaknesses, perhaps, of the team that you're a part of, and how you fit together with others, and what's your sweet spot and what's their sweet spot, that requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of self awareness, and to me, assessments are done in every other discipline. Also a master addiction counselor. I don't practice, but when I'm working with, historically, when I've worked with clients, first thing you do is an assessment. You do a comprehensive assessment to find out where they are, what the nature of the problem is, what are their strengths, what are the obstacles for their success, what resources can you bring to the table to help them. It's the same thing here, and I think that, and I challenge that anytime I'm working with somebody that might be assessment resistant. you
Right.
know, do you really not want to know what makes you tick?
I don't know how you're going to get to the realization of the vision if you don't know where you're at today.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
how can you put a plan in for how you're going to get there if you don't know where you're starting? So
Exactly.
I hear you. I talk to people all the time about assessments, and some of the resistance is the time or the financial commitment related to it, which I don't think is outrageous.
Right.
But I don't know how you arrive at the highest potential of your organization or your people if you don't know where you're at. So I appreciate assessments, and we could probably do a whole session just on
Yeah, we could.
assessments. So talk to us
Yes.
a little bit about leadership during COVID. We're in a really unique time. It's to your earlier point, it's bringing out the best and the worst in leaders,
Yeah.
really showing us leaders. Talk to us about, if I'm a leader in this environment, what do I need to do to be successful? How can I
Mhm.
best lead my team during this crisis?
Yeah. So I like the saying that a good crisis or a time of adversity has a tendency to introduce a leader to themselves. And
Great.
it's kind of like in your face.
Yeah.
What was it? Harry Truman says the buck stops here. I've got no, where can I turn? I mean, I've got to deal with this. This is on my plate. Uh, so this, on a little side note, this is the first time in my career where I haven't really been leading an agency during a period of crisis. As I stepped out from 30 plus years of running rescue missions and recovery programs, and kind of entered into this consultant practice. And I mean, it's like I sent out an email to just all kind of different people saying, hey, I'm available. This is the first time that I haven't been driving an organization through a time. But I quickly realized that I could be a big help to a lot of people during this time. So I think it's a leader is always looking for why not? Well, how can I get in the game? What can I do? And so I've worked with some smaller nonprofits and one fairly large Christian ministry during this season. Still working with them now, and it's the neat thing. The silver lining in this is it removes a lot of the reasons why you didn't do stuff before. You know, it's like when you've got to make a change in
Yeah.
order to survive, it seems like it limits your options, but actually that's good because a lot of those options you either wouldn't have ever done or they wouldn't have worked. So it forces you to be creative. It forces you to think outside the box.
Right.
I, as I said earlier, I'm a John Maxwell fan, and I'm a certified with that organization as well as other organizations. And I think that one of the things that really blessed me being a part of that is he got on. He started churning out videos. He did a series on leading through adversity, leading through crisis. And so I took his stuff, and my sister and I turned it into webinars and masterminds, and just started trying to broadcast out how you could, how we could be of help during this time, and how to maybe help people walk through it. Adversity, as I said before, has a tendency to introduce the leader to themselves, and stepping up is huge. Yeah. Everybody that hopefully has the right heart and wants to help people is, looking, how can I help? How can I be a part of the solution? What can I do with the talents and giftedness and resources God has entrusted to me? What can I do to be the best steward during this time? And I really like that John Maxwell, he's like one of the most sought after speakers there is. I mean, he's booked solid all the time. And, his schedule got canceled everywhere. And so he devoted his energy to producing some video series that my sister and I actually took and did webinars and masterminds on to help leaders navigate through this season.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to talk in just a minute about where they can find all of your services, all the great stuff that you're talking about, because I think our audience would be super interested to know how to connect with you. But I want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
In order for leaders to really thrive, they need to take care of themselves, right? They have to invest in themselves. And it's not only training and coaching, but what are some things that you think really keep a leader grounded?
Well, I think that having, again, I do think that I'm somewhat the expert. I think expert actually is somebody that's made a whole lot of mistakes, and I can write the book on what not to do. I think that, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you've got to take care of yourself. If you're not leading yourself, you can't lead other people.
Right.
I mean, you're going to be very limited if you're not leading yourself. So I think, with my faith perspective, that's, to me, it's three-dimensional: right relationship with God, right relationship with yourself, right relationship with others, making sure your priorities are in order. I have a definitely have a workaholic tendency. I could ease into that very quickly. So it's very important to, have your priorities in order, have people that can speak into your life, that you're giving them permission to speak into your life. I think we're always receiving and always giving. Healthy organisms reproduce. We're like rivers of living water. So, I mean, it flows. So I think it's important for everybody to have a coach / mentor in their life, at least one. And I think every healthy person needs to have somebody that they're pouring into. Taking care of yourself. We all know what to do. The question is, do we do it? I mean, do we eat right? Do we get plenty of rest? Am I having a good quiet time? Am I working on my spirituality? And because if you don't do that, and you're drained, and somebody that's drained and poured totally out with the best intentions in the world has no life to give anybody.
No.
And so, you quickly lose your value in addition to your health.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. I feel like you've given our listeners so many gold nuggets that they can implement immediately. Let's leave them with some info on how they can find you, Jay. Where can they best find you, and what would they find when they find you?
Okay, just go to my website. It's JAYACORY.com. I provide I basically help leaders and organizations improve their impact, make greater impact through high performance coaching, training, and consulting. I love coaching. I love training. I love pouring in. My focus is not exclusive, but I mean, having worked in the social sector ministry, almost my whole career, I really focus on with churches and nonprofits. I do work with for-profit organizations as well, but I just want to see everybody make a greater impact, and for everybody to have a personal plan for leadership development and a pathway inside of their organization for leadership development. All that stuff's on my website. So if you go to jacory.com, Cory Leadership Group.
Fantastic. I'm going to drop it in the comments below on our YouTube channel too, so everyone can find it. But Jay, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for imparting wisdom. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, it was my privilege. Thank you.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.